Hello, my name is Khan Ross. Thanks for joining me. I'm a former diplomat. I advised democratic countries and political groups around the world for 20 years. I also lived for 17 years in the United States, and today I want to talk about America, in particular Trump's America and where it might be heading. What are the worst case scenarios for Trump's America? Now, back in the Second World War, the Austrian Karl Popper theorized about what it would take to defend and sustain democracy against the threat from, say, fascism, from communism, or whatever. He came up with the concept of the open society, in which he saw three things as necessary to maintain democracy. The first was free and fair elections, the second was an independent rule of law, and the third was a free press. Now let's look at those three pillars, if you like, to see where we are in Trump's America and where we might be heading. Starting with free and fair elections. Now a lot of people who worry about Trump hope that the Democrats will win the midterms and thereby challenge the Trump administration and restrain it. But Trump doesn't like losing power, and he could easily do what he did in the 2020 presidential elections, which is declare the elections invalid. A second thing he might do is to declare a state of emergency. Say because of national security threat, terrorism, or illegal mass migration, or fentanyl, or some kind of cocktail of all of those things. And on that basis, he would postpone or cancel elections and also suspend the rule of law. Now, he's already declared a state of emergency on the southern border as soon as he entered office. It wouldn't be a stretch to imagine that he might do so for the whole country. There's already evidence that he's willing to invoke wartime laws, rarely use wartime laws, to do illegal things. In the last few days, the administration deported hundreds of Venezuelan and Salvadorian alleged gang members without evidence and without trial, and they will now be imprisoned more or less indefinitely in a Salvadorian mega jail. When he became Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth fired the two most senior lawyers in the Department of Defense on the grounds that he didn't want any roadblocks, as he called them, put in the way of the commander-in-chief, i.e. the president. In other words, he was more or less saying that he expected the president to want to do things with the military that an independent lawyer would judge to be illegal. Other indications of Trump's attitude to the rule of law, Popper's second pillar, is his pardon of the January 6th rioters, 1,500 people, some of whom were guilty of violent assault in an attack that killed 6 police officers, others of whom planned the violent assault. And of course, we know already that J.D. Vance doesn't think that federal law should restrain the executive, and we know Trump's attitude too. Why? Because he posted it on his social media feed. He who saves his country does not violate any law. That quote was also tweeted by the White House immediately afterwards. So where do we stand with the free press, the third of Popper's pillars? Well, Jeff Bezos has already restrained the Washington Post, one of the nation's most important newspapers, from commenting on a whole wide range of issues, including the administration's conduct, a brazen capitulation to the new dispensation in Washington. Newspapers and TV can expect a raft of aggressive lawsuits from the administration that would tie them down in burdensome and costly lawsuits. And we can imagine that already some in the press are restraining themselves from writing certain stories for fear of those lawsuits. The press that is deemed hostile to Trump have been banned from Air Force One, from the Pentagon, thereby limiting coverage of the government. And of course, Trump himself has a long record of threatening the press, including individual journalists. Overall, the atmosphere of threat and intimidation is significant. Anybody who speaks up against the administration or perhaps blows the whistle on the administration can expect to be abused in public by Musk and his cohorts, and threatened in public by others such as the Proud Boys or Oath Keepers. who may themselves also turn to violence, where they can expect impunity if that violence helps Trump. So that's what we can expect. All three pillars of Popper's open society are under sustained and really quite effective assault. And a bleak conclusion might be that the US has already had its last democratic election. I hope not, but it's best to prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. Thank you.